So the paper I looked at was about low naltrexone prescription rates for alcohol dependency, and it was written in 2003, so there were only 2 FDA-approved medications, and now that it's 2017, there is a third medication that is the market leader, but it seemed like the most relevant and, decent paper I could find, so I went with it. Quick refresher, what is naltrexone again? Naltrexone is a medication that blocks the part of your brain that feels pleasure when you're doing something like drinking alcohol or taking drugs, and it doesn't cause any sort of adverse reaction to it, but it just over time causes the brain to just not care for alcohol or drugs as much. So an overview of the problem, there are 3 FDA-approved medications: naltrexone, disulfiram, and acamprosate. In 2003, naltrexone was the market leader, now it's acamprosate. But none of them are prescribed as frequently as perhaps they should be. In 2003, only 7 to 13% of people suffering from alcohol dependency were being treated with naltrexone, and part of this is due to education issues, both from the side of the people prescribing as well as the side of people that are going to need to be taking this medication. About half of the people that they surveyed were just unwilling to take it, and 40% were just unsure, which, through education would be solved. So this paper surveyed 1,400 members of 2 professional societies for addiction medicine, and they used both open-ended questioning and statistical analysis. The open-ended questioning was just what's causing you to not prescribe naltrexone, and then the statistical analysis was on the physicians themselves and on what variables there were that were causing them even more or less likely to prescribe naltrexone. So the results, about 13% of patients were being treated with naltrexone, but that is mildly misleading in that 1/3 of physicians did not prescribe naltrexone to any patients whatsoever, and 58% prescribed it to less than 6% of their patients. Only 6% of the people prescribed it to at least half of their alcoholic patients, which is questionable. The largest self-reported reasons why these physicians weren't prescribing naltrexone to a large number of their patients was that about a quarter believed that the patients would just refuse to take their medication, or that they wouldn't comply with at least 80% of the tablets. And they believed about 40% would relapse to any drinking, and about 30% would relapse to heavy drinking. In addition, they also very heavily believed that the patients would likely not be able to afford naltrexone, which is a fair concern because naltrexone is, in comparison to other medications, relatively expensive. The physicians who prescribed naltrexone were more likely to be board-certified in psychiatry, to identify as addiction medicine specialists, and to spend a higher percentage of their time treating patients than they were in administration or in research. They were also a lot more likely to be a lot more up-to-date on the papers and trials that have gone on about naltrexone and been written about naltrexone. So they were reporting themselves as having an excellent ability to summarize the literature on naltrexone, as well as perceive it as effective and safe. And they were also treating more patients with either private health care or Medicare, which goes back to the previous issue of if they had Medicaid, they were less likely to be able to pay for naltrexone. So how can the findings from the study lead to change? The biggest thing is education, and part of the issue was that in 2003 there were serious issues and questions about how effective and safe naltrexone was. But now that it's been over a decade, it's pretty well accepted that it is both safe and effective, and that has led to a pretty serious increase in both the prescriptions and just general sales volume of medications for alcohol dependency being prescribed. Part of that is also due to the introduction of acamprosate in 2005. In addition, the big thing is lowering the cost of naltrexone, because it is expensive, and then to increase the use of programs that will increase medication compliance, which was an issue that the doctors brought up.